Hi guys, we're going to keep working on social studies government, and today is day 2 of working on the 3 branches of government. So we are going to be in your social studies book on page 150. If you can get there, that would be great. If not, you'll have to look on the screen with mine. It might not be easy to see. Try your best. All right, so we're going to talk about the 3 branches of government. We're actually going to start reading on page 151. So we're going to kind of dive in a little deeper to the branches. So this is the legislative branch. As you learned, Congress has 2 parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. We talked about that on our song. Remember, the Senate is made up of 2 representatives from each state. A representative is a person chosen to speak for others. Citizens vote to choose these representatives. There are 100 senators. Senators are elected every 6 years, and they can be elected many times. It's not like a one and done type of situation. So one of the vocabulary words from this book is representative. So sometimes we might pick a representative at Haley's school. So let's say that the teachers are having a meeting, and we're supposed to meet and decide what we want to do for something. So maybe for the carnival or whatever. We're not having a carnival this year, but that was an example. So they might have a representative from the 3rd grade team that's going to speak and say their ideas. So if they pick Mrs. Yonke as representative, that means that I'm the person that is going to speak for the 3rd grade team, so that not all 4 of us have to try to talk at the same time at a meeting. So that was what a representative is somebody who's chosen to speak for a group of people. All right, let's keep reading. There are 435 representatives in the House of Representatives. Remember, the number of representatives in the House depends on the number of people living in each state. The more people who live in a state, the more representatives the state has. Like senators, representatives speak for the people who vote for them. Let's see how many representatives we have for Indiana. Okay, so something I love about the internet is you can pretty much look up whatever you want. I typed in how many representatives in the House of Representatives in each state, and boom, this came up. So it shows in Indiana, we've got 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. We have 9 representatives in our House of Representatives for Indiana that speak for us. So think of a state that might have a bigger, well, I know Texas is a really big state. That doesn't mean it's a big population, but it's a big state. Let's see, Texas has, keeps going, oh my gosh, 20, 25, 27, look, it just keeps going, 36. They have 36 representatives, and we had 9, so they are a much bigger population. They have a lot more people living there than we do. So if that's something that you're interested in to see how many states, all you have to do is Google how many representatives in the House of Representatives for each state. Okay, so let's keep reading. The representatives in Congress raise and collect taxes. The money from taxes is used to fund or pay for the government. Congress also makes laws for the country. Some laws deal with safety, while other laws make sure that all people are treated fairly. All laws begin as ideas. Once an idea is written down for the government to decide on, it's called a bill. Before a bill can become a law, both parts of Congress must vote on it and approve it. The bill is then sent to the president to sign. So the Senate and the House of Representatives both have to agree on this bill, that they both like it, for it to be taken to the president to see if he likes it and agrees with it. The bill is just an idea that, you know what, I think people should be able to do this. And then they come up with the specifics in the bill. So when I say bill, that's what I'm talking about, not like a name. Like my dad's name's actually Bill, that's his nickname. But that's not what I mean by this. So a bill is an idea they got written down on paper that's now a document that we want to become a law. So a bill is not a law yet. And I looked up, there's a bunch of bills that are currently in, like they're trying to get them to become laws, or we can just look up like past bills. So let me pull that information up. Okay, so all I did was type in current bills in Congress 2020, and it pulled us up. I can go to this website and look at them. So if this is something that you're interested in looking and seeing what kind of ideas are trying to become laws, there's something called the HEROES Act and the CARES Act that both have to do with the coronavirus. The CARES, CARES, and the HEROES actually represent like something, like they stand for something. So like HEROES is the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act. And it's talking about like helping people and businesses that are struggling because of things being like shut down for the coronavirus. So those are a couple of bills that are current right now as of October 25th, 2020, as you can see right here on my screen. HEROES Act, the CARES Act, and there's a lot of other ones as well. All right, back to reading. So before we turn the page, I do want to point out some of the text features on this page. They have a photograph, not a picture. We'd call that like an actual photograph somebody took with a camera. And there's a caption right here telling us if it wasn't there, we'd be like, what are we looking at? What's the picture there for? So the caption tells us more about the picture. Congress meets in the U.S. Capitol. So this is Congress, and so the Senate and the House of Representatives, and they're meeting in the Capitol about bills or issues or whatever they're meeting for. Okay, if you turn the page to 152, we're switching from the legislature to the executive branch. The executive branch. The President of the United States serves a term of 4 years and can only be elected for 2 terms. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. 4 2 times would be 8, so 8 years total. The President lives and works in the White House in Washington, D.C., which we know from yesterday is not in Washington State. It's in the District of Columbia, which is between Maryland and Virginia. The president has more than one role in our government. One responsibility is to sign bills, which are ideas for laws. We just talked about that one. However, if the president does not agree with the bill, the president may veto it. That's another vocabulary word, veto. That means reject. So it says veto or reject it. If a bill is vetoed, the only way it can become a law is if most of the members of Congress vote again to approve it. So if the House of Representatives and the Senate decide that, ooh, this is a good idea, let's make this a law, and they make it a bill, and then they pass that bill on to the president, to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump sees it and he's like, no, that is a terrible idea, or no, I don't like the way that's written, or no, I don't think that's important for whatever reason, he doesn't like it, then he's going to veto it, which means reject it. Bye, bill, and he gets rid of it. But if the Senate is still like, we think this is good, then they can try to still get it approved. They can bring the bill back and still try to approve it. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about checks and balances. All right, the president is in charge of the United States military. This means the president is the commander-in-chief of members of the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and the Air Force. The president also represents our country to the rest of the world. The president meets with leaders from other countries to solve problems. So if you look at the photograph here with the caption, the president is commander-in-chief of all American armed services personnel. So he's their leader. They might have like sergeants and lieutenants and like ranks within their branch, but the president is their like overall leader. All right, so as we turn the page, I do want to talk about some of the other text features that we're seeing. I do see that there are words that are highlighted in yellow and even bold with like darker black letters. Usually those words mean they're like important words, they're vocabulary words or something that they really want to stand out. If you make something bold, you want it to stand out among the other words, okay? Here's another photograph with a caption. The president lives and works in the White House. So a caption is going to be a full sentence. It's different than a label that's just one word. So this is the White House where the president lives. It's got columns on it. All right. The president also works with the cabinet. The cabinet is a group of advisors or people who tell a leader what they think about a subject. So cabinet, that doesn't mean like this is a cabinet. It's not that. This is uppercase C. It's a group of people. So the cabinet is their advisors. We have a cabinet in Fort Wayne Community Schools. So we have our superintendent, Dr. Daniel, who's like the big guy in charge. But then he has a cabinet, a group of people that helps him make all these decisions. He doesn't just sit in his office and say, you know what, I think we're going virtual. Boom. And it happens because his cabinet helps him with that. Do you guys think we should go full virtual? Should we do hybrid? And they brainstorm and they come up with it together. So now let's go back to the president's cabinet. Each advisor leads one of the 15 different branches or groups in the executive branch. These advisors help provide the president with information about important issues in the country. These issues may be about education, health care, or security. The president selects these advisors. However, the Senate must approve the president's choices. So the president wants to be able to get along with and respect their cabinet, so they get to pick them. But if they say, oh, I'm going to have this person be my leader of education, and then the Senate is like, that person's not a good choice, then they can say no, although they didn't with Betsy DeVos. So not sure what happened with that situation, but I digress. All right. But this is a good thing that he has a cabinet, because the president can't know everything and can't be an expert in every subject. So when it comes to education, they have somebody who's supposed to specialize in education, who knows a lot about it, who can spend all their time. I'm just going to deal with education. So when they're like, hey, what's going on with the schools with coronavirus, they can go to that person, or they have like a health person. So here are the members of Trump's cabinet. We've got the Vice President, Mike Pence, Secretary of State, the Treasury, Defense. There's a lot of different ones. I'm going to scroll down a little bit to find some that you might be more familiar with, possibly. So there's the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, Homeland Security. So there's different things that they are supposed to be the ones who specialize in different areas, so that if it's not something that he is super familiar with, he can call on these people to help him. Okay, let's go back to reading. Okay, so go ahead and turn the page. We're going to talk about the last branch, the judicial branch. So let's look at the photograph and the caption. The United States Supreme Court building, completed in 1935, is in Washington, D.C. So that is the Supreme Court where they meet. Again, has columns. There's a lot of columns on the buildings in Washington, D.C. Notice how there's like a title at the top of this one, the judicial branch, and the other ones had titles too. The legislative branch. These are actually not called titles, they're called headings. So if this whole section is titled branches of government, I know everything in this chapter is going to be about the branches of government, but then headings break it down a little bit more. So this whole section, all these paragraphs are going to be about legislative. Then we had whole section about executive. So now we know we're moving to a different section because we have a new heading, the judicial branch. The judicial branch of the government is made up of the Supreme Court and smaller courts. Judges in the courts make sure that laws are fair. They always decide the consequences for people who break laws. Remember, I had my brush yesterday and it has to be fair. Judges, judicial, fair. That's the main thing I want you to remember. The Supreme Court has 9 judges. Judges in the Supreme Court are called justices. The Supreme Court justices make sure the laws passed by Congress follow the U.S. Constitution. Most cases that the Supreme Court hears are appeals from lower courts. The appeal is a request to review an earlier court decision. So if something happened and like there was a certain ruling that like this is not allowed and now you have to go to jail, and they're like, whoa, 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 this doesn't seem right. They can appeal. Like, can you look at this again and see if you think that this is fair and see if we can change it? The president nominates or chooses the justices for the Supreme Court. However, now it's a contrast word, however, that means there's something different. The Senate must approve each choice. So Supreme Court justices do not have a term limit. Once a person becomes a justice, he or she can serve for their whole entire life. The U.S. Constitution includes ways to make sure that the 3 branches of government work together. This system is called checks and balances. That's another vocabulary word. This means that each branch can check the actions of another. This helps make sure that the 3 branches share the power to rule. One branch does not have more power than the other branches. Whoa, I'm going to say that again. Ready? One branch does not have more power than the other branches. I think that's confusing because people think of the president having all the power and I make all the decisions. So if you get nothing else from this lesson, I want you to know that the president cannot make all the rules. He doesn't sit in his office and say, this is happening and this is happening and I did everything by myself. That's not how the president works. They have checks and balances so that if the president has a goofy moment and thinks like, you know what, I'm going to make it a law that everybody has to stand on their head for 10 minutes a day, and if they don't, they go to jail. And if they have a crazy moment where they come up with something crazy like that, then other people like the Senate the House of Representatives, they can come in and be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. We're not doing that. Or the Supreme Court can come in and say, that's not fair because not everybody can stand on their head, so we're not having that. So they have to have those checks and balances so that one person doesn't make all the rules and make goofy rules or unfair rules. There's that system that supports each other. Okay. All right. So we've done a lot of reading today, a lot of talking today. So I'm going to put a little link to a song from Schoolhouse Rock, which is something I totally listened to when I was in school, and your parents probably recognize it too. And it's called I'm Just a Bill Sitting Up on Capitol Hill. And so if you can listen to that if you'd like to learn a little bit more about a bill. But I have a secret poll that is your social studies attendance and participation for the day. If you scroll down on PowerSchool, you are going to see a poll underneath the Post-its. And all it's going to ask you is, what does veto mean? And we talked about it in this lesson, and I'm going to tell you the answer right now. So if you click the right answer, then you get your participation points for the day. Veto means to reject. So if I'm like, I veto your idea, I reject it, I don't accept it, I don't think that's a good one. So scroll down on the Post-its, find my poll, and click that veto means to reject. And then you just got an A+ for today's lesson. Right, guys? See you tomorrow with more social studies. Actually, Thursday. See ya.